Back when I lived in London, I was always obsessed with finding the perfect laptop bag. This was due to the fact that both me and my laptop were pretty much inseparable, and because half of the experience of living in London is basically walking around, therefore I wanted to make sure that my prized possession was going to be stored in the best bag I could find. Unfortunately, I didn't actually achieve that goal, and since moving to America back in 2020, I kind of gave up on completing this quest, mainly due to the fact that I had started working from home, first as a software developer, but then that continued all the way up to me being a YouTuber. Recently, however, I've been doing quite a lot of travel, both domestically, so within America, and also internationally. And I have a few more trips planned. Because both me and my laptop have once again become inseparable, therefore my quest to find the perfect laptop bag has once again been reignited. This time, however, things are slightly different, as we're in the middle of what's been described as a sort of backpack revolution, with a huge number of companies now producing bags of pretty much all shapes and sizes, and with some of the highest quality materials we've ever seen. Therefore, rather than just picking up the first bag that I saw online, I decided to do some research and spent a lot of time reviewing a number of different options to see which one was going to be right for me. As it turns out, I not only found a bag that works for all of my needs, but I think I found what I would consider to be the best laptop bag I've ever used. This bag is the CityPack Pro 2 from Air, and for me, it pretty much ticks all of the boxes that I could want when it comes to carrying my laptop. Whether it's just everyday carry, aka EDC, or taking as a personal item on a flight, sometimes as the only bag that I take. Okay, before I jump into what makes this bag so great, as well as talking about some of my favorite features, let's begin with the requirements that I had when I began my initial search for the perfect bag. The first and most major requirement was that it should be able to hold any laptop that I currently own, as well as any laptops that I plan to own in the future, in a way that both felt safe and protected. I actually have another much larger travel bag that I typically use for one bag travel, which is meant to be for longer trips. Whilst I love this other bag, the laptop compartment itself always feels a little less secure, and so I end up double wrapping my laptop to give myself that extra peace of mind. Whilst this works, when it came to my smaller everyday carry bag, I wanted to make sure that the bag itself had all of the protection that I would need, without needing to worry about additional sleeves or cases. In addition to protection, I also wanted to make sure that the bag itself would have easy access to my laptop, without me needing to fully open it up. This again is another issue that I experienced with some of my previous bags, and I wanted to avoid that if I could. Additionally, because I'm kind of into one bag travel whenever it's feasible, then I also wanted to make sure that the bag that I chose would be able to support this. Basically, it needed to be large enough to carry some clothes and toiletries, in addition to the laptop and any tech accessories I wanted to bring. This also had the caveat that it should be compact enough that it would conform to a personal item size on pretty much all airlines, with exception for a few. This also had the benefit that I could easily pair it with a carry-on suitcase if I ever needed to travel with more. Lastly, because I'm getting back into minimalism, then I wanted to make sure that this bag would also accurately represent this vibe as well, basically in aesthetics. Therefore, I wanted to have a bag that didn't have any obtuse branding or logos, but would also look smart enough to be able to take to a client meeting or even to an office. And so, with my requirements defined, I decided to begin my search, making heavy use of both the Nomads Nation and Pack Hacker YouTube channels, which are absolutely fantastic if you're interested in an everyday carry. In the end, I found the CityPack Pro 2 from Air, which also happened to be the first product that I bought from the brand. And as I mentioned, is perhaps the best backpack I've ever used. So what makes this backpack, the CityPack Pro 2, so good? Well, for starters, it looks great. It definitely meets my requirements when it comes to that minimal aesthetic. However, perhaps more importantly than looks, it's incredibly well built, being made from extremely high quality materials. The exterior fabric is a 1680D ballistic nylon, which, if you have no idea what that means, it's basically extremely durable, both being tear and abrasion resistance. Of course, that does mean there is a bit of a trade off, in that the material itself is kind of heavy, which means that this bag, when empty, weighs about 2.86 pounds, or 1.3 kilograms for those who think in metric. For a 24-litre bag, that is somewhat on the heavier end of the spectrum, but that is the trade-off when it comes to both durability and high-quality construction. In addition to ballistic nylon, another area where this bag also makes use of premium materials is when it comes to the zippers, which in this case are made by YKK. If that again means nothing to you, YKK is considered one of the most highly regarded zipper manufacturers in the carry community, due to their reliability, high-quality materials, and, well, smooth operation. All of this makes the bag incredibly well built, which is something I personally want when it's carrying my tool of trade. As I mentioned before, this bag is rated at 24 litres carry capacity, which for me is kind of the sweet spot when it comes to both everyday carry, whilst also being able to work as a personal item on a flight. Despite this, it's still also large enough to carry enough clothes for a week, provided you don't mind washing your undies in the sink. Because of this versatility, then it does mean that you can pack this bag out quite heavy, especially if you start adding in things like camera gear in addition to other tech, which I often do. Fortunately, however, the bag itself is incredibly comfortable to wear, even when it's heavy. This is thanks to its fantastic harness system, which I would say is probably one of the most comfortable I've ever worn. The straps themselves are incredibly well padded, whilst still maintaining some form of structure. Additionally, it has this mesh-type back panel, which is incredibly breathable, but still comfortable to wear. It also has this air channel here, which allows some of the heat from your back to escape. Additionally, the bag also comes with this magnetic sternum strap, which helps to distribute some of the weight across your chest, whilst also keeping the shoulder straps in place. Overall, the harness system itself is incredibly well thought out, and I've worn this bag whilst walking for miles at a time and have had no comfort issues. Additionally, you'll also notice here that there's a luggage pass-through, which means when I'm taking it with a roller bag, I can just slide this on in a vertical orientation, which is really nice when it comes to having a laptop inside, and it just makes it easier to carry two bags at once. In addition to the harness system, the bag also comes with 3 different carrying handles, 2 on the side, so here and here, and 1 on the top. These handles are again extremely comfortable, being made from a sort of seatbelt type material surrounding some really thick foam. Whilst it may feel overkill to have 3 different handles, it actually, in my opinion, makes it really easy to grab the bag when it's pretty much in any orientation. And if you just want to carry it kind of like a briefcase, it's not the best for this, but you can definitely achieve it. All in all, for me, this bag has a lot of different carrying options and a really comfortable harness system, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so great. However, of course, the most important thing when it comes to a laptop bag is the laptop compartment. So let's go ahead and take a look. The CityPack Pro 2 comes with its own dedicated laptop compartment found at the back. This compartment actually comes with 3 pockets inside, which is a slightly strange configuration. We have 1 pocket at the front, a pocket kind of in the middle, and the laptop compartment in the back. For me, having a separate laptop compartment offers a few key benefits. The first is that if anything breaks or spills inside of the main compartment, then this is going to be protected. It also means that you can access your laptop without accidentally having some sink-washed undies fall out. When it comes to the laptop compartment, the bag itself really prioritizes protection for your valuable equipment. If we take a look inside, you can see that the laptop compartment itself has this kind of padded texture on the top with a thick piece of material, basically protecting it from any of the other items that you may store in this bag. Additionally, the bag itself has a false bottom, which is kind of difficult to show on camera, but it basically comes down to about here. So this is where the laptop itself stops. So when you drop this on the ground, it's not going to ding the bottom of your laptop. As for the type of laptops it supports, well, it supports up to a 16-inch laptop, maybe even a 17-inch. I don't have a 17-inch laptop on hand, but here I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which, as you can see, fits in nice and easy. There is a little bit of room at the top, but yeah, I'd say a 16-inch MacBook Pro is starting to push kind of where that protection lies. Just for good measure, I decided to test the laptop compartment using the Framework 16 with the GPU expansion module installed, which does fit in the laptop compartment, but not in the dedicated sleeve. In addition to the laptop sleeve inside of this backpack, this compartment also has another pocket which can support either a tablet or an e-reader. In my case, I often like to put my Kindle inside of here when I go on longer trips, and it's easy enough to access whenever I'm on the plane. One last area of protection that I want to look at, if I just take my laptop out, is the actual zippers that I used for this compartment. Here you can see that they're actually slightly different to the other zippers found on this top part. This is because these zippers here are YKK AquaGuard, meaning that they have improved water resistance, which can help to prevent any of that pesky H2O from getting into your laptop and preventing you from shipping that day, as if that was the excuse in the first place. Whilst we're on the subject of water, if we take a quick look at the sides of the CityPack Pro 2, we have not one, but actually two side pockets, which are pretty perfect for carrying a water bottle. In this case, I have my Owala 32 ounce, which fits in pretty nicely, although I will say this does eat into the main compartment when sized with a larger water bottle. Therefore, instead, I've actually been taking this, the Memo Bottle Slim, which is kind of a really nice flat design. It doesn't stand up very well on a table, but it fits inside of these side pockets pretty easily and doesn't really take up any space inside of the main compartment, which is great if I happen to have this fully packed out. One thing that I don't love about this bag is this sort of elastic banding, which I have some longevity concerns, especially when using kind of a larger water bottle, that it will eventually stretch it out and kind of reduce the elasticity. For me, it's not too much of a problem because I do use this slimmer water bottle, but yeah, something to keep in mind if you do like to have a big bottle at all times. Another pocket that this bag has, which can sometimes eat into the main compartment, is here at the top. This is kind of a nice little small compartment, which is great for kind of chucking things in, either when going through security or that you just, again, want easy access to. In my case, I mostly put my sunnies inside, and yeah, it's a perfect size fit. Additionally, if I'm going through security, sometimes I'll also just stuff my phone in here as well, which again fits pretty nicely, and that way I can just pull it out once I'm through the security line. Another good use case for this bag is if you happen to have like a pair of earbuds. Again, you can put this in there and it's easy to access when you're on your flight. If the bag gets a little too packed out, however, I also like to put this in the front compartment, which we'll take a look at shortly. But before we do, let's go ahead and take a look at this front pocket, which you'll notice has yet another YKK AquaGuard zipper. This is kind of like Air's design style, but the pocket is still rather functional. However, one thing to note is that like YKK AquaGuard zippers can be somewhat harder to open due to the fact that the coating that they use can make the zippers somewhat sticky. Fortunately, Air have thought about this and have provided these nice little Hyperlon tabs that you can use for leverage, making it a lot easier to open and close. If we open this up, you can see that this pocket, whilst being somewhat slim, actually has quite a lot of room inside and extends all the way down to the bottom of the bag. This is because of the stitching that's been used, which kind of pleats the bag open forward rather than taking up the main compartment. Inside, you have a keychain, which I have a YubiKey attached to. You can never have too many YubiKeys, but you can also store other things inside of this pocket as well. I actually have a protein bar in here just in case I get hungry, but I personally like to use this pocket when it comes to a light jacket. Again, because this doesn't take up any of the main compartment space, then it's a really useful pocket to have just to store some additional items in. One thing to note is this pocket only goes down and doesn't actually go up. That's because above it, there's another compartment, which is the top admin panel, which is opened up using these front zippers. This area provides another place that you can easily access things, whilst also providing some really minimal organization. Inside, you can see we have these two kind of stretchy pockets, which is actually made from the same material that's inside this top pocket. And we also have a zippered pocket inside as well, which we can store some additional things in. Personally, I like to use this pocket to store some xylitol gum, if you know, you know, or to also store any important things whenever I'm going on a flight. So I can use this pocket to store my wallet in, and I then like to use this pocket to store kind of my travel wallet, which has both of my passports inside. Additionally, if I'm just doing an everyday carry, then I'll usually just store some tech gear in here, like a GAN charger, and then some charging cables or something else in this pocket. As for this top pocket, I like to use this to store any travel documents, although here I have a couple of lens wipes inside. Additionally, I'll sometimes throw my AirPods in here or even my phone if the top pocket is packed out. So that covers both the laptop compartment and the front pockets. Next, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the main compartment itself, which, if I go ahead and open up using these zippers here, which go all the way down to the bottom, you can see it's perhaps one of the more uninteresting parts about this bag, but in a really good way. As you can tell, this is just basically a giant bucket that opens clam shell, which is something I actually really like. This is because it's much easier to access the contents of the bag rather than if it's just a top loader only, which I find can be a bit of a pain having to rummage through, especially when you have it packed out. Whilst this compartment is kind of basic, there is some organization inside. For starters, you can see here we have a top pocket, which I currently have a lavalier microphone inside, and also $10. Pretty cool. In addition to this top pocket, we also have a larger bottom pocket, which again, you can kind of store some documents or anything else in. You'll notice that this interior has a rip-stop material. That basically means if there's a rip does occur, it's not going to tear all the way through due to this cross-stitching. In addition to these two pockets, we also have kind of another stretchy pocket on this other side, which you could, I guess, put something in, maybe another Kindle or something else that's kind of flat. Yeah, it fits the laptop reasonably well. Personally, I haven't used this pocket very much, but I can definitely see some use case for it. One thing you'll note is that this main compartment is completely separate from the laptop compartment, which I mentioned earlier. This is really great if you happen to be storing any toiletries or any liquids inside, because if they happen to spill, which if you've ever gone traveling, you know does happen, then they're not going to transfer into the laptop compartment. Again, the design of this bag is just really well thought out when it comes to protecting your valuable hardware. As I mentioned, this is pretty much just a giant bucket, which for me is pretty much perfect because I like to pack this out using different pouches or packing cubes, depending on where I'm going, whether it's just on the road or if I'm doing a quick day trip somewhere. To better understand what that looks like, I thought I'd show a couple of different packouts that I like to use with this bag, as I think it's a lot easier to explain and apply to your own situation in order to understand whether or not this bag is going to be right for you. Okay, so this first pack out is what I would describe as the week away, which is basically using this only single bag for either a week or a long weekend, depending on how much you pack. In this pack out, I like to take a medium-sized packing cube. This is the Peak Design medium packing cube, which I usually get a week's worth of clothes inside. Then I like to use kind of a wash kit or a DOP kit, as it's called in the packing community. This is the Air DOP Kit 2, I believe, which is fantastic. It holds a lot more than this, but this is pretty much what I take for a full week. I'll kind of put this in here. And then lastly, I'll take a slim tech pouch, which in this case you can see has kind of a GAN charger inside, as well as any cables that I might need for charging my phone and charging my laptop, as well as a nice little SSD, external SSD. This one's a 4TB one. This tech pouch is again by Air. You can tell they have the same design aesthetic, but this one works really nicely because it kind of has a tapered edge, and you can just slide it in there and it creates kind of a cube size. As you can see, this is pretty packed out, but if I go ahead and zip it up, again, making use of those nice Hyperlon pull tabs, you can see it zips just fine, and there's still space for a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Easy. You can also fit your Kindle in here as well. I don't have it with me, but actually, let me go get it. Okay, so yeah, Kindle should now just fit in absolutely fine, and you've still got loads of space. I think even I could get a battery in this front panel compartment, so you know, you can again get your wallet in here, your passport or passports, And yeah, I think I've got enough space here for a battery as well. This is a really chunky battery. I'll do a review on this at some time. I absolutely love this battery bank. It's heavy AF though. But as you can see, fits in perfectly. It does look kind of stupid, but there you go. You kind of got a one bag for travel. So that's Packout number one. If I want to go away for a week and just have a single bag to do so, then this works pretty well. Okay, so Packout number two is what I would call the content creator. So this is typically what I take in conjunction with a rolling bag, just so that I can have kind of all of my tech gear in my personal backpack. And then if my luggage happens to be gate checked, I don't have to worry too much. In this configuration, I usually take a Peak Design extra small camera cube, which fits in really nicely and will hold kind of a mirrorless camera and a lens. Then I typically also need to take a larger tech pouch. This is the Peak Design tech pouch, which in this case, I have kind of some microphones. I have an international 180 watt, I believe this is 170 watts. So yeah, a international 170 watts power adapter, which is really, really useful. It also has pass-through as well. And it has 3 USB-C and 1 USB-A port, and then a few other cables in here. I haven't actually got this as packed out as I normally would. Some camera lenses. Overall, this is a much bigger tech pouch, which I usually use for storing more things. And then you have a load of space for anything else that you might need. So again, you could put your toiletries in here if you want to, and you can even go ahead and put in a jacket. Zip this up. But again, it's loaded, and you can also put in your nice water bottle in the side. So that's Packout number two, which is more for content creators or anybody who likes to take a camera with them. Maybe you're doing photography or something similar whilst writing code at the same time. Okay, so the last and maybe least Packout configuration is one I'm dubbing the Ultra Minimalist Man of Travel, and something I've been trying out a lot over the past couple of months. This configuration is all about trying to make sure that I can do my work whilst traveling, and all in one single bag. To start, I usually take this Peak Design small packing cube, which I can get about 4 or 5 days worth of clothes inside, although it does mean you're going to be doing some sink laundry. Technically, I could go indefinitely on this, although it does start to get a little bit tedious. Next, then, because I'm a content creator, I need a camera, which in this case, I take the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is something I've been using more and more in my videos. And yeah, it's a pretty cool camera. Great for kind of minimalist travel, and it also happens to come with its own carrying case that has a tiny little tripod stand inside, a battery handle, and most importantly, a microphone, so I can also record audio whilst on the go. This, again, is really nice and compact, and it doesn't matter going in the main compartment because, again, it has kind of water-resistant zippers, so I kind of just put this in here. Next, of course, we have, in this case, the ultra slim tech pouch, which again just kind of has a power brick. This one is the GAN 140 watts by Aohi. Couple of charging cables, and again, an SSD. Pretty simple. This one can fit nicely in there. Next, we have the toiletry bag. This is like my ultra minimal toiletry bag by Gravel. It's the Gravel Toiletry Mini, I believe. I can get pretty much a week's worth of stuff in here, including a Tide pen, which is really cool. But yeah, this is really, really minimal travel. You definitely probably want to buy stuff when you go somewhere else. As you can see, we still have a bunch of space in here. So I can fit like a little tiny travel tripod, which is useful to work with the DJI Osmo 3, and some camera filters. These are just ND filters, so I can film outside. Let's go ahead and pack this up. And with that, we have my ultra minimalist man of travel all in one bag. Pretty cool. Okay, so that hopefully gives some overview as to why I love this bag. Not only just for carrying my laptop, which it does a really good job of thanks to all of the protection, but it's so versatile in the way that you can use it. And because it fits as a personal item, you can pretty much just take this and use it as your main bag, provided you don't mind re-wearing clothes or washing underwear in the sink. That being said, if you want to see how I do a longer trip, including taking a separate bag for clothes, or if you're interested in what I take with everyday carry when it comes to tech, then let me know in the comments down below and I'll do some videos on it. Otherwise, that's all from me. I'll see you on the next one.